Hey there, welcome to Why Gaming. Before we start with this video, a bit about myself. I've been an avid gamer since 1999. I mostly played the FIFA series. I also have a soft spot for racing games and beat-em-ups. However, the PS Plus subscription has some amazing games to try, and Yakuza was a series that I always fancied. I read many reviews which stated that Yakuza 0 was the perfect place to start. There are several Yakuza games and spin-offs, but starting at 0, well, makes sense. So without further ado, here's why you should play Yakuza 0. I am not a fan of story-driven games because my attention span is seriously lacking. However, this game got me hooked right from the start. The first few minutes of any game makes or breaks it, and Yakuza 0 does a great job right off the bat. The intro is stylized, the music is perfect, and it highlights the characters and the setting. The game starts off with the framing of Kazuma Kiryu for murder. I won't give much away about the story, so let's get to the setting. The game is based in 1988 during Japan's bubble era when property prices were sky high. There are two fictional districts, Kamurocho, which is like Tokyo, and Sotenbori, which resembles Osaka. Kiryu, who has been a staple of the Yakuza series, plays his part out in Kamurocho. And then there is Goro Majima, who stars in Sotenbori. The interesting aspect of this game is that you keep switching between the two protagonists. A word of warning to all, though. The game has long cut scenes, so expect a bit of play and quite a bit of dialogue to come up from time to time. This isn't a bad thing, but just be prepared. There's a lot of madness, too. Wacky characters are a dime a dozen, and there is always something interesting for you to do, even if you don't want to just stick to the story, which gets me to the other point. Games with stories or missions work for me when you have interesting characters. God of War, the original trilogy, and Grand Theft Auto Vice City remain story mission-based games I finished because they had interesting and complex characters and a good story. The same can be said about Yakuza 0. The two protagonists are very different in their outlook, behavior, and more. The characters on the streets are brilliant as well, and they add to the game rather than take away from it. This is what kept Yakuza fresh for me. In the first few hours, I busted a ring where college girls sold their underwear, helped an old guy by fighting off loan sharks, learned about some password by beating guys up, and even had time to become a producer on a film set. While the areas aren't as big as Vice City or even San Andreas, the developers did a great job of stuffing in so much for you to explore and do in such small space. The characters really make this game incredibly interesting, be it the old man who teaches you fighting styles, or the cashier in the convenience store. I love a good beat-em-up, and Yakuza 0 at its core is a game where you just beat people up for fun. Random fights on the streets occur, and you can unleash your wild side. There is a really deep character progression system in place, and it is based on how much money you can spend. Money can be obtained by doing missions or beating up folk that challenge you on the streets. The fighting system is another fun aspect of the game. There are 3 styles initially, with each having its own pros and cons. There is a heat system, depending on your actions during fights, and these have some really, really brutal finishers. Each fighting style has different finishers, and the beast ones are the best. The fighting really got me hooked, and while it can feel a little repetitive at times, learning new moves keeps the action fresh. And yes, this did remind me of some of the arcade beat-em-ups I played when I was 10 or 11, and yes, Mr. Shakedown is a huge problem. If you don't know, this is a character who can seek you out at any time for a fight, and if he beats you, he will take all your money. But if you beat him, you get a huge chunk of money. You can run away from him, but you need money to become stronger. I had read that Yakuza games have several side missions and tons of exploration to do. I got a taste of that in the initial minutes when Kiryu and his friend decided to sign karaoke. You can select which song you want and play this time and again. I decided to take a swing at the batting cages and failed the first time. There are Sega arcades lined up across to play classic games. There are crane-operated machines too for you to win prizes. Bowling was fun too. There is a disco where you can dance to a few songs, and it reminded me of Dance Dance Revolution. There are some weird side missions too, so you are always busy. It's just so much to do, and it's cramped up perfectly to showcase how much can be done in a small space. You could just lose hours doing these mini-games. So far, I have only scratched the surface of what a Yakuza game can be, and I am sure many of those who have played this game have found missions and quests that are insane. Did you like Yakuza 0? Which is the best Yakuza game? Sound off your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, Do subscribe to the channel, stay safe, and catch you later.